everybody, welcome to today's video. I recently started the 100 head challenge and I wanted to share some of my process. I am on heads number 10 right now. I started with digital speed paints and then moved on to watercolor. I have been wanting to do this challenge for a really long time, but just wasn't feeling ready. Here are two paintings I did about 2 months ago. I wasn't quite happy with them, but I didn't hate them either. I was waiting for an epiphany or some kind of breakthrough. That breakthrough came a few days ago when I was watching this alla prima oil painting demo from Susan Leon. I was painting on Procreate as I was watching her and listened to her explanations. I used a different reference and I was shocked by how fast and straightforward this approach was. I also noticed that she used two different references. One is the actual photo and the other one is like a value map. I think it was the cutout filter in Photoshop. I don't have Photoshop, so I can't say for sure. But a long time ago, I purchased an app to achieve a similar result. It was suggested in this book. I will put it in the description below. Anyway, it's an app called C Value. I use the 3 or 4 value filter, and sometimes I edit the reference photo before and after doing this to make sure that the features are still readable. I also like to experiment with the background value to see if I can frame the portrait somehow. I have been doing some reading on this lately. Again, all the books I mentioned will be listed down below. When I started the first 4 or 5 portraits in Procreate, I was just dipping my toes in the water because digital drawing is so safe to me. I can redo everything and it doesn't use any materials at all, so I didn't feel like I had the need to trace over the reference, and I didn't even start with a sketch. Somehow I felt it's even more freeing this way and it just went a lot quicker. I did have some fundamental issues with the construction though, like the proportions, and that's something I still need to work on. I wouldn't choose this approach with watercolor, obviously, since I can't correct things very easily. But that's my goal of this challenge. I want to try out different approaches for different mediums. I know that I want to try traditional gouache like Emily Hughes and oil pastels as well. Maybe even oil paints, which have to wait till next year because I'm kind of running low on my art supply budget for this year. And later on, I also plan to paint some portraits with hands included, like holding the face or something. I think I have been avoiding hands for so long. I feel like it's time I face it now, so we'll see how that goes. I will try to film my process whenever the daylight is good enough, but probably not all of them. I do enjoy the privacy of painting alone and not filming sometimes because it's a very intimate experience, especially like on a late night session. Now I am tracing over the value map with the pencil brush. It is for transferring the sketch onto my paper. This paper is not for watercolor painting. It is the Canson 1557 drawing paper, but it handles watercolor quite okay. I kind of like how it contributes to the looseness. And the palette I'm using here is a generic 24 half pan box. I have been using it to keep my brushes, and I squeezed out some paints on the mixing trays. The paints are mostly from Winsor & Newton, except for one new gamboge from Daniel Smith. I watched Han's recent watercolor tutorial and she used a limited palette. I think it was lemon yellow, burnt sienna, and Payne's gray. I tried a similar combination with Winsor Yellow, Brown Madder, and Indanthrone Blue in this first painting I did off camera, and this time I'm just testing out using New Gamboge instead of Winsor Yellow to see what difference does it make. I think it gives a more realistic look, but it didn't have that glowing effect that came with a very cool and bright yellow. I haven't decided which one do I prefer yet. I'm still discovering my own preferences and I don't want to rush this process. Later that night, I also painted this one. It was a challenging reference, and I think the lighting brought a lot of color shift on her skin tone. I actually used a lot of opera rose in this painting. It's a color I usually don't reach for because I always consider opera rose to be like a screamer. But in this painting, I love how it makes her face look like she's glowing in the dark, and it was a very pleasant surprise. And this is on a piece of hot-pressed paper from Saunders Waterford, so it probably has something to do with that I'm using proper high-quality cotton paper this time. But yeah, I really like how this one turned out. As I was editing this video, I felt like I wanted to scan in these watercolor paintings to keep working on them in Procreate to flesh out more detail, like in their eyes and their gaze. I have done it once with a landscape painting, but it was a long time ago. I think I mentioned before that I like to jump in between digital painting and traditional mediums because I am kind of a sensory person and my sensors would often feel very cheated after a few sessions of digital painting because there's no paint or pigment involved when I thought that there was supposed to be. It's kind of hard to explain, but I hope you understand what I mean. I also like to go back to digital painting because of the safety of redoing and all the other convenient tools. For this painting, I'm using a rough textured cotton paper, also from Saunders Waterford, so I decided to pair it with my most granulating paints. They are all from Daniel Smith, except for that half pan. That one is Volcano Yellow from Schminke's Super Granulating series. I remember it to be hard to re-wet, and it works kind of like a lip gloss, very transparent and almost like a tint. I liked how it behaved in this painting. It has that glowing look, but it's not as overpowering as lemon yellow. All the names of the paint will be listed down below. I kept all my granulating paint on this palette just in case I want to reach for them. By the way, we are soon to reach 2,000 subscribers, which is unbelievable. Maybe we can do something special like a Q&A. That is, if I can gather enough questions to make into a video. But yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below or DM me on Instagram. I will try my best to answer them. And if I don't get enough questions, I think I'll just tell the story about me forging my mother's signature to sneak into art class when I was like 8. That was an interesting part of my past. So halfway through this painting, I experimented with using 2 different brushes at the same time. For her hair, I used that bigger brush with a darker greenish color and combined it with the smaller brush with red and yellow paints on it. I switched in between these two brushes to paint her hair. I think the results are quite interesting, and I also didn't need to rinse the brushes as often. So yeah, that was a fun thing to try. But I think I didn't like this rough paper for portrait very much. I guess it was more suitable for landscapes. It made her face look a bit too textured, especially her gaze became a bit ambiguous. But that's okay, I might just take a picture of this painting and paint over certain parts in Procreate. I think that could be very interesting. So that will be the end of this video. I hope you liked it. Remember to subscribe if you want to see me do more paintings like these, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.